Unit 3.4, differentiating inverse trig functions. These 6 formulas here are the trig functions you gotta memorize. The inverse of sine x would equal this, and the cosine would equal the exact same thing with a negative u prime on the top instead of positive. Inverse of the derivative of secant inverse x is equal to u prime over absolute value of u times the square root of u squared minus 1. Cosecant would be the exact same thing with a negative u on top, negative u prime on top. The derivative with respect towards x of tangent inverse x would equal u over 1 plus u prime over 1 plus u squared. Cotangent is the exact same thing with a negative u. So I like to remember these as, I like to remember one side of the table and completely memorize it. And the ones that start with c's are going to have a negative u on the top. So sine and cosine are exactly the same, but since the cosine starts with a c, there's a negative u on top. Secant and cosecant, exactly the same, negative u. And that's the way I like to remember it. So to find the derivative of, with respect towards x of cosine inverse 2x, you got to find your u first and your formula. So we can just go back to this table since we're not forced to memorize it yet. I wrote down my formula here so I can have it closer and I don't have to look back and forth. Found my u, which is this right here. It's written as the x on the table, but it's also really the u. So since we got a negative u prime on top, found the prime of this and put a negative on it. So negative 2 over square root of 1, which isn't going to change, minus u squared. This is our u, square it. 2 times 2, 4, x times 2, x to the power of 2 is going to give you 1 minus 4x squared. And this right here is your derivative. Now the derivative with respect of x towards x of cotangent negative x squared is going to turn to, or you're going to have to use this formula, find your u, which is x squared, find the derivative, find the prime, and multiply it by negative, you get negative 2x over, since there's no square root on this one, it's actually a little bit easier. You don't have to draw that big old square root. 1 plus 2x squared, which gives you 1 plus 4x squared. So this is derivative of cotangent negative, inverse cotangent, and this is derivative of cosine inverse.